First class on Flight 782 looked like a scene from a luxury commercial. Wide leather seats, warm golden lighting, champagne glasses clinking gently as the plane prepared for takeoff. Everything felt quiet, polished, perfect. But perfection doesn't mean everyone feels welcome. In seat 2A sat an 8-year-old black girl named Aaliyah. Her braids were neatly tied with pink beads. She held a coloring book in her lap, carefully shading in a picture of an airplane. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. This wasn't just any flight. Her dad was the pilot, and today she was flying in first class for the first time. Beside her sat her mother, Monica, calm, graceful, always watching. She adjusted Aaliyah's seatbelt and smiled. "You comfortable, baby?" Aaliyah nodded. "I want to be a pilot like Daddy," she whispered. Monica smiled, proud, but also alert, because she could feel the stares. Across the cabin, several passengers quietly observed them. A woman in a designer coat whispered to her husband, "Isn't first class supposed to be peaceful?" Another man glanced at Aaliyah's backpack and frowned. Nobody said anything out loud, but the silence spoke loudly. Not everyone expected to see a black child here. Aaliyah pressed her face to the window. The runway lights glowed like stars. "I can see Daddy's plane," she said. Her small voice cut through the quiet luxury. Some passengers smiled, others didn't. But Aaliyah didn't notice. She was too busy dreaming. The intercom clicked on. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Captain Harris speaking. We'll be taking off shortly. Sit back and enjoy the flight." Aaliyah's face lit up. "That's my dad," she whispered. Her mother squeezed her hand. "Your hero," she replied. A wealthy man in an expensive suit shifted in his seat. He glanced at Aaliyah, then at his watch, then at the ceiling. Annoyance crept onto his face. He muttered under his breath, "I paid for first class, not daycare." Monica heard it. Aaliyah didn't. Monica stayed quiet, because sometimes dignity is louder than words. The plane began to move, engines humming, lights dimming. Aaliyah hugged her coloring book, unaware that her peaceful moment was about to turn into chaos. On this flight, comfort would be tested, respect would be challenged, and a father's love would change everything.
As the plane reached cruising altitude, first class returned to its usual rhythm. Drinks were served, laptops opened, business conversations whispered quietly, but not everyone was at peace. Introducing the rude passenger. In seat 1C sat Richard Collins, expensive suit, gold watch, a face that looked permanently annoyed. He tapped his fingers on the armrest, too slow, too loud, too irritated. He didn't like waiting, and he didn't like sharing space. The first complaint. A flight attendant passed by. "Can I get you anything, sir?" Richard didn't even look at her. "I've been waiting for 10 minutes, he snapped. "This service is unacceptable." The attendant apologized politely. Behind him, Aaliyah was quietly coloring, not making a sound. The stares returned. Richard leaned back and finally noticed her, the pink beads in her braids, the backpack by her feet. He sighed loudly, then muttered, just loud enough, "Kids don't belong in first class." Monica's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Aaliyah kept coloring. A child's innocence. Aaliyah looked up at her mom. "Mommy, can I show Daddy my picture when we land?" Her voice was soft, pure. Monica smiled. "Of course, baby." But Richard rolled his eyes. The second complaint. Another flight attendant approached with a drink cart. Richard raised his hand sharply. "Excuse me, I asked for coffee." The attendant nodded. "I'm getting it now, sir." He stood up suddenly. "I don't pay this much to be ignored." His movement was aggressive, unnecessary, and dangerous. The moment before chaos. The cart wobbled. Hot coffee cups shook. Aaliyah turned her head at the sound. Her eyes widened. Time slowed. The spill. The cup tipped. Burning liquid flew straight onto Aaliyah's arm. She screamed, a loud, painful scream that cut through the cabin. Ah! Shock in first class. Passengers jumped. Monica rushed to her daughter. "Oh my God, baby!" Aaliyah cried in pain. Her skin was red, blistering. Richard stepped back, his face pale. "I didn't mean to," he said quickly. "She shouldn't have been so close." The cabin went silent. That sentence changed everything. Aaliyah sobbed in her mother's arms. Flight attendants rushed forward. Medical kits opened. And somewhere in the cockpit, a father was about to find out. Narrator, low, powerful. When a child is hurt, excuses don't matter. Only actions do. First class had gone silent. No more champagne, no more whispers. Only the sound of a little girl crying in pain. Flight attendants take control. 2 flight attendants rushed forward. One grabbed the medical kit. The other gently took Aaliyah's arm. "Sweetheart, we're going to cool this down," she said softly. A cold compress was placed on her burned skin. Aaliyah winced. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Her mother held her close. "It's okay, baby. Mommy's here." But inside, Monica was terrified. The call to the cockpit. One of the attendants pressed the intercom button. "Captain, we have a serious injury in first class. A child has been burned." There was a pause. Then the calm voice of Captain Harris replied, "Understood. How severe?" "Second-degree burn, sir." The cockpit went silent for half a second. Then, "I'm coming out." The door opens. The cockpit door slowly opened. Passengers turned their heads. Out stepped the pilot, tall, composed, still in uniform, but his eyes were searching, scanning. Then he saw her. A father's fear. Captain Harris rushed to Aaliyah's seat. He knelt in front of her. His strong voice softened instantly. "Aaliyah, Daddy's here." Her eyes filled with tears. "Daddy, it hurts." He gently touched her shoulder. "I know, sweetheart. I've got you." His jaw tightened, not in anger, in focus. Assessing the situation. He looked at the burn, red, blistered. Then he turned to the flight attendant. "How did this happen?" She pointed toward Richard. He stood up suddenly and hit the cart. Richard crossed his arms. "It was an accident." Captain Harris stood up slowly, calm, controlled, dangerously calm. Power without shouting. He looked directly at Richard. "My daughter was injured because of your impatience." Richard tried to speak. Captain Harris raised a hand. "You don't get to explain right now." The cabin froze. The official response. Captain Harris turned to the crew. "Contact ground control. Request medical staff on arrival. We may need to divert." The seriousness in his voice made everyone realize this wasn't just a complaint. This was a father protecting his child. Shame in first class. Passengers who had judged Aaliyah earlier now looked away. Some whispered apologies. Others stared at the floor. The atmosphere had changed. Respect replaced silence. Captain Harris sat beside his daughter, holding her hand, not as a pilot, but as a father. Narrator, deep emotional. When a father's heart is involved, even the sky must listen. First class no longer felt like a luxury cabin. It felt like a courtroom. All eyes on Richard. Richard Collins stood stiff beside his seat. His expensive suit suddenly didn't look so impressive. Passengers stared, flight attendants waited, and a father stood between him and a crying child. Captain Harris's voice was calm, but it carried power. The confrontation. "You endangered a passenger," the captain said. "A child." Richard scoffed. "It was an accident. You're overreacting."
The cabin gasped. Captain Harris took one slow step closer. "Accidents happen," he said. "Recklessness is a choice." Silence. "Authorities are called." The captain turned to the head flight attendant. "Contact airport security. File an incident report. Preserve the video footage." Her eyes widened. "Yes, Captain." Richard's confidence began to crack. He raised his hands. "Look, I paid for this seat. I didn't mean to hurt anyone." Captain Harris looked at him steadily. "Paying for comfort doesn't give you the right to harm others." Richard had no answer. A mother's strength. Monica gently wiped Aaliyah's tears. "You're so brave, baby," she whispered. Aaliyah nodded, still shaking. The cabin watched quietly. For the first time, everyone understood what really mattered.
The plane descended slowly, but the tension in first class stayed heavy. No one spoke. No one moved. All eyes were on the little girl with the burned arm, and the man who caused it. The landing. The wheels touched the runway. A gentle thud. Normally, passengers would clap. Today, silence. Captain Harris's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. Medical and security teams will board first." Richard swallowed hard. Help arrives. The cabin door opened. 2 paramedics rushed in. They knelt beside Aaliyah. "We're here to help you, sweetheart." They carefully wrapped her arm. She winced but stayed strong. Her father held her hand. "You're doing great, baby." Her eyes searched his. "You're my hero, Daddy." His voice cracked for just a second. "And you're mine." Security enters. Next, 2 airport security officers walked in. Their eyes went straight to Richard. "Sir, we need you to come with us." Richard tried to smile. "Let's not make this a big deal." One officer replied calmly, "It already is." They escorted him down the aisle, past every passenger, past every stare, past the child he had hurt. The eyes of the walk of shame. Richard's expensive shoes echoed on the cabin floor. No one defended him. No one supported him. The power he thought he had was gone. A cabin changed. A woman leaned toward Monica. "I'm so sorry for what happened." Another passenger whispered, "Your daughter is so brave." Monica nodded, holding Aaliyah close. "Thank you." The same cabin that once judged them now respected them. A father's final moment. Captain Harris watched as his daughter was gently taken for treatment. He stayed calm, professional, but his eyes showed pride. Not because he was a pilot, but because he was a father who stood up. Sometimes justice doesn't need anger. It only needs truth and courage.
The airport hallway was quiet. No cameras, no reporters, just a family walking together. Aaliyah's arm was wrapped in white bandages, but her spirit was strong. A child's strength. She looked up at her father. "Daddy, did I do something wrong?" Captain Harris stopped walking. He knelt down to her level. His voice was soft. "No, sweetheart, you did nothing wrong." He touched her forehead gently. "You were brave, and brave people never deserve pain." Aaliyah smiled. Mother's pride. Monica watched them, tears in her eyes, not from sadness, from pride, because her daughter had been hurt but not broken. The real uniform. Captain Harris wasn't wearing his pilot hat anymore. No rank, no title, just a father holding his child's hand, and that was more powerful than any uniform. The message. They walked past people who stared earlier. Now those same people looked away, not out of judgment, but out of respect. Respect isn't about where you sit on a plane. It's about how you treat the people beside you. Because every child deserves safety, every family deserves dignity, and every human deserves respect. This wasn't just a flight, it was a lesson the world needed to see.